Let's see. Let me go to a couple comments here, and then I think we'll have the speeches starting in a second. Are these speeches right now? Who was that just? That was Gavin Newsom, I think. If I know my Democrats, and I think I do. Did I speak right through Gavin Newsom? Well, that's fine. I did. I just talked right through Gavin Newsom. I hope you guys weren't here to actually watch the speeches. Let's see. Okay, I'll shut up in a second. I wanted to go to a couple of comments here. JD says, I don't get the strategy of adding her, the far left hater for being a prosecutor, the moderates hater for being far left. What does she win them? Yeah, and on top of that, she's from California. So she's from a state that they were already going to win by a gazillion points approximately. So yeah, I don't see much of the strategy there either. But I think it would have been a worse strategy for Joe Biden to choose an actual, well, she is a far leftist, but according to the far left, she's not, because the Overton window has shifted so far to the left, right? That she still counts as like somewhat moderate by their standards. So if he had chosen someone that the far left even embraces, then I don't, if it's a general election strategy, I don't really see that. All right, I'm going to shut up now, and let's check in with the DNC convention. All right.
This time next year, I hope the virus is in check and the American spirit is unleashed, and that we're not fearing, but hoping again.
Unity in our country. This is what I hope to see next year.
I hope we've chosen community over chaos. We've chosen unity over division. And we've chosen love over hate.
I believe that America will have faced its darkest moment and will have come out better.
America will be coming together, not splintering apart.
No more pain.
This time next year, I hope that we will have a government that is accountable to us, that guarantees health care as a human right.
The promise of America will be restored for all our communities, all our families, for all of us. And when I say all of us, quiero decir todas nuestras familias.
I am confident that this time next year, we will have a president who provides this country with real leadership, not just tweets.
This time next year, I hope we are listening less to the Russians and more to Dr. Fauci.
I hope we all get back to work.
There'll be 2 Americans who I will be happy to say are unemployed, Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump.
This time next year, I hope that all Americans, whether they are Democrats or independents or Republicans, will be proud of their president, will be proud of their vice president.
And that our recovery is truly people up, families up, and communities up.
That people believe they have a government that is working for them, that's out there every day doing its best for them.
I want to see a president of the United States who can look a trans woman in the eye and tell her her rights are worth protecting.
I hope America has a president who champions the rights of all young women and girls.
This time next year, I want a president who understands what military families need.
Who cares about the rights and lives of disabled people.
We'll care about our environment again.
We'll have passed comprehensive immigration reform.
I hope we have a president who honors treaty rights and tribal sovereignty.
A year from now, I want to see the kids playing on the playground.
I take pride in my job and helping our customers. But next year, I want to do it without wearing a mask or gloves.
I hope that we are all celebrating.
Can I just say,
landmark legislation.
You want to see kids playing? Oh, there's Beto. Good. I cut in right before he started speaking. Great timing on my part. You want to see kids playing on the playground? Okay. Well, we could have that now. There's no reason at all why we can't have kids playing on the playground right now. In fact, my kids do play on the playground. There's no reason why coronavirus should stop that. There's really no science telling us that the coronavirus is likely to be hanging out on a jungle gym if you go to the playground. There's not a lot of science telling us that. So to whoever just said that, we don't need to wait for Joe Biden to give us permission for our kids to play on the playground. You want your kid to play on the playground? Take him to the freaking playground. You paranoid lunatics.
This time next year, I want to see Joe Biden in the Oval Office.
Hello, America. I'm Andrew Yang. You might know me as the guy who ran for president talking about math and the future. Unfortunately for all of us, that future is now. The pandemic has accelerated everything. If you're like me and my wife, Evelyn, you don't know if your child's school is going to reopen this fall. 72% of Americans believe that this is the worst time we have ever experienced. And 42% of the jobs that have been lost, millions of jobs, will never return. We are in a deep, dark hole, and we need leaders who will help us dig out. I know many politicians promise and then fail to deliver. If you voted for Trump or didn't vote at all back in 2016, I get it. Many of us have gotten tired of our leaders seeming far removed from our everyday lives, and we despair that our government will ever rise to the challenges of our time. But we must give this country, our country, a chance to recover. And recovery is only possible with a change of leadership and new ideas. Bold and innovative policies that will get help into your hands in the midst of this crisis are now possible. But we need your help to turn the page for our country in 75 days. We are here tonight to celebrate Joe Biden's nomination as the Democratic candidate for president. I have gotten to know both Joe and Kamala on the trail over the past year. The way you really get to know a person when the cameras are off, the crowds are gone, it's just you and them. They're real people. They understand the problems we face. They are parents and patriots who want the best for us and our country. And if we give them the chance, they will fight for us and our families every single day. Our future is now, and it is daunting. But I ask you tonight to join me to help Joe and Kamala fight for the promise of America, turn the page for our country, and lead us forward to a future we'll actually be proud to leave to our children. And now I'd like to turn it over to a great Democrat who will be with us throughout the evening. Between the two of us, we have 11 Emmys. How's that for math? One of my favorite actresses, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Hey, Julia.
Hi, Andrew. I'm so glad to see you. So what did you think about Kamala Harris's speech last night?
It was tremendous. I was so happy for her.
I know, me too. She was fabulous. I cannot wait to see her debate our current vice president, Mika Pence. Or is it Paints?
It's pronounced Ponce, I believe.
Oh, some kind of weird foreign name?
Yeah, not very American sounding.
Yeah, that's what people are saying. Strongly. Well, thank you, Andrew. And please give my regards to the gang.
I will. They're right in the next room. Have a great night, Julia.
Thank you so much. Good evening, America, and welcome to the fourth night of the 2020 Democratic National Convention, Uniting America. Okay, I'm
going to cringe. I'm going to die of cringe from that. I'm physically, I can feel I'm on the verge of convulsions from all the cringe. Was that supposed to be some sort of comedy routine between those two? And also, by the way, I don't get the Andrew Yang thing. Honestly, I don't understand he's looked at it. Well, he's not like the other Democrats. I just don't see it. He doesn't seem very compelling to me. Not a lot of charisma. And at the end of the day, if you're still affiliating yourself with this group of lunatics, then you're just as bad as them, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, drink up, guys.
And the day it came out, my phone rang, and it was the vice president telling me he loved the cover and the whole article, and that it was one of the best issues of Arrive he had ever read. And that is just one of the many reasons that I wanted to be here tonight for Joe. And to remind you that Joe Biden not only knows how to read, but also he reads everything. You know, I am no policy expert, and I certainly don't pretend to be one, but I have a gut feeling about fairness and what's right. And that is why I am so excited that just in a little while, we're going to hear from Joe Biden about his plans for America, plans for a strong economy that helps working people and small businesses, not just billionaires, and plans to raise the wages for the nurses and teachers and grocery workers that are getting us through this crisis. God love them. So how can you help Joe? It's super simple. Vote. Right now, you can text VOTE to 30330 to learn about all of your voting options and make the best plan for how to vote in your community, wherever you are. An easy way to remember 30330 is that's the year Donald Trump will finally release his tax returns.
Oh my gosh.
If we all vote, there
can we stop this?
Facebook,
I mean, can we just stop the whole thing?
And Vladimir Vladimir Putin
You guys
can
want to do
to
something
stop
else?
us. But first, let's
You guys want to watch
reaffirm
something
the
else?
all-American values that our party and Joe Biden stand for.
I'm going to direct him to stop after each.
Do it while you're smiling, okay?
All right, ready? And action.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Awesome.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we've watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Good evening. I'm Sister Simone Campbell, Executive Director of Network and leader of Nuns on the Bus. Tonight marks an important next chapter in our story of who we will become as a nation. So I speak to you with a sense of urgency and hope, knowing the difficult work ahead, but grounded in my faith. The very first paragraph of the scripture that informs the three Abrahamic traditions tells us the divine spirit breathed over the waters of chaos and brought forth a new creation. Encouraged by this promise that a new creation can come from chaos, let us pray. O divine spirit, during the weeks and months ahead, stir our hearts and minds that we might fight for a vision that is worthy of you and your call to honor the dignity of all of your creation. A vision of who we are as a people grounded in community and care for all, especially the most marginalized. A vision that cares for our earth and heals the planet. A vision that ends structural racism, bigotry, and sexism so rife now in our nation and in our history. A vision that ensures hungry people are fed, children are nourished, immigrants are welcomed. O Spirit, breathe in us and our leaders a new resolve that, committed to this new American promise, we will work together to build a national community grounded in healing, fearlessly based on truth, and living out of a sense of shared responsibility. In the name of all that is holy, O Spirit, bring out of this time.
Okay, turn this down. We cannot. This is. Okay, first of all, let me tell you one thing. Okay, when you get a nun, big red flag, just as a Catholic, you get a nun dressed like that, not dressed in the habit. Okay, you're about to get a bunch of liberal nonsense most of the time, which is exactly what we're getting. Praying to the divine spirit. Why can't you say God? Why can't you say, or you're supposed to be Christian? Why can't you say Jesus? Can't say those, can you? Let me ask you something else, sister. How does God feel? Talk about breathing over the waters. He also breathed the breath of life into every living person. So how does God feel, sister, when he breathes the breath of life into his children, and then those children are then executed in the womb? to the tune of $1 million a year, 60 million since Roe v. Wade. How does he feel about that? That's my question. I noticed in all your prayers, you didn't mention the 60 million, the mass grave of 60 million babies. Well, there's not really a mass grave. Do you know why there's not? Because they throw them in dumpsters. So they don't even get graves. But the sister there praying to the divine spirit, you know, and waving her hands around like she's conducting a seance or something. Of course, she's not going to mention that. One other note as well. Well, here's Chris Coons here, Delaware. No one cares about him. One other note. So there's a few things that Democrats can't talk about or can't do. One is Christianity. You can't pretend to be Christian while you support the mass slaughter of 60 million babies. Period. You can't. Number two, what we just saw there with the national anthem, which to me sounded pretty pitchy. My wife says I don't have an ear for these things. Probably true. Sounded pitchy to me. I don't know. If I'm a judge on America's Got Talent, I'm saying no, you're not going through to the live rounds on that. But you can't do that because we know how you feel about the national anthem. We know that that's nothing but theater and pageantry. You don't actually support it. Third thing you can't do, which we heard, is talk about small businesses, because you don't care about small businesses either. Because small businesses are being destroyed right now in two ways. One, they're being burned to the ground by these violent mobs, and you have nothing to say about that. You don't care about that. And they're also being destroyed by these crazy draconian lockdown policies, and you're also in favor of that. So you don't get to pretend to care about small business. So just to be clear, you don't get to pretend to care about small businesses. You can't pretend to care about your faith. You can't pretend to care about children, and you can't pretend to care about the country, because we all know better than that. So be yourself. If you're a Democrat at the convention, embrace who you are, and then we can all live happily ever after. All right, let's go back to Chris Coons here.
He believes in both the greatness and the goodness of this country. He believes in us and in what we can do together.
My question is, what is your faith, and how would you use your faith in making decisions for our nation?
Well, Reverend, I kind of know what it's like to lose family. And my heart goes out to you. If you may remember, after Barack and Michelle and I were there, and my family, I came back on that Sunday, the regular service, because I had just lost my son. And I wanted some hope, because what you all did was astounding. I don't know if you all know this. All those who died, were killed by this white supremacist, they forgave him. They forgave him. The ultimate act of Christian charity, they forgave him. And you know, Reverend, I'm not proselytizing. I happen to be a practicing Catholic. But I went back to the church because I found, particularly, the black church. In this case, with an AME, it was not an Episcopal church. I found that there's that famous phrase from Kierkegaard, faith sees best in the dark. I find the one thing it gives me, and I'm not trying to proselytize, I'm not trying to convince you to share my religious views. But for me, it's important because it gives me some reason to have hope and purpose.
Just remember, Joe Biden goes to church so regularly that he doesn't even need tear gas and a bunch of federalized troops to help him get there. No one fought harder for your right to vote than John Lewis. Here to speak about him and his legacy,
is that an appropriate way to transition? Who scripted this? First of all, she is, talk about cringe. This is terrible from Louise Dreyfus. Is it Julie or Julia? I don't even know. You can tell I'm in touch with pop culture. But is that an appropriate, he's talking about his family, you know, it's an emotional story. And then she goes right into a joke about tear gassing people. I don't know. To me, it doesn't seem like a respectful way to transition, but what do I know?
Well, I'm glad to hear it. But boy, I think a lot of Americans are going to be dealing with that for a long time. Hey, Mayor, I wanted to ask you something. Is Atlanta ready for Election Day?
We will be ready, and we are going to do everything that we can to make sure that voting goes smoothly. But we are encouraging people, if you can vote early in your state, to please do so. Early vote during the early vote.
Perfect. Excellent advice. Over 40 states now allow some form of early voting. Okay, stay safe, Mayor, and I turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Julia, and good evening. I'm Keisha Lance Bottoms, a mother of 4 and mayor of Atlanta, Georgia, cradle of the civil rights movement, and like so many other cities, a place where the struggle for human dignity continues. I'm proud to have grown up in this city, educated in its public schools, and blessed to have known our hometown heroes like Dr. Joseph Lowry, Dr. C.T. Vivian, and our teacher, our friend, our conscience, our congressman, John Lewis. He walked gently amongst us, not as a distant icon, but as a God-fearing man who did what he could to fulfill the as yet unfulfilled promise of America. People often think that they can't make a difference, like our civil rights icons. But every person in the movement mattered. Those who made the sandwiches, swept the church floors, stuffed the envelopes. They too changed America, and so can we. The baton has now been passed to each of us. We've cried out for justice. We have gathered in our streets to demand change. And now we must pass on the gift John Lewis sacrificed to give us. We must register and we must vote.
Oh, you cried out for, she said they cried out for justice. They cried out for justice. I mean, this is the city where they are prosecuting police officers who shot a man because he, after being found passed out behind the wheel drunk, then proceeded to assault them and steal their weapon and turn it on them. And even then, you know, responding to deadly force, to lethal force with lethal force of their own, they're not allowed to do that because, you know, in the city of Atlanta, says this mayor and the DA and all the other Democrats there and all the Democrats across the country. If you're a police officer and a bad guy decides he wants to kill you, then all you're allowed to do is just, you know, get on your knees and offer yourself up and say, do what you will, do what you will. Anything less than that, and I'm not even joking. That's not even an exaggeration. Anything less than that, and it's murder. So that's all. Just keep that in mind while you listen to her prattle on about justice and doing what's right and dignity. This is the city where they burned down a Wendy's. And on top of all that, self-defense shooting by police officers. What are these, these protesters who care so much for social justice, care so much for the poor and downtrodden? What do? They go to burn down the Wendy's where it happened. What do the Wendy's do? There's people that work there for a living. Well, these rioters, they don't care. Mayor doesn't care. So, yeah, that's justice for you.
Honor and integrity, who hold justice close to their hearts and believe that the lives of my 4 Black children matter. In the words of womanist poet Audre Lorde, your silence will not protect you. Congressman Lewis would not be silenced, and neither can we. We cannot wait for some other time, some other place, some other heroes. We must be the heroes of our generation because we too are America. Our votes can be our voice.
There's something deep down within me, moving me, that I could no longer be satisfied or go along with an evil system.
Life was extremely dangerous when we were growing up. John Lewis had the respect of everybody because he was the one who demonstrated the most courage. He'd been beaten and knocked down and get up and go to find another battle. John was focused on ending voter suppression, and it wasn't that he was a great orator, it's that he was a great spirit. The power of spirituality and humility, and the willingness to suffer rather than to inflict suffering.
One of the things that John has taught us is that, yeah, you may have to sacrifice, but if you're sacrificing for a cause, something bigger than you, and you really believe in it, then you will have people following you.
If we do not get meaningful legislation out of this Congress, we will march through the South, through the streets of Jackson, through the streets of Danville, through the streets of Cambridge, through the streets of Birmingham.
I think he is the singular figure that has tried to carry out the work of our nonviolent campaigns into the halls of Congress.
From day one, John Lewis was a role model for the members of Congress, whether they were freshmen or here a long time, because he brought with him a kind of heft, a weightiness of purpose.
I got arrested a few times during the 60s. 40 times. And since I've been in Congress, another 5 times. The means by which we struggle must be consistent with the end we seek.
Someone who has navigated thorny issues of policy, not by castigating alone, but by also encouraging people to be better than they think they can be.
Today, we are considering a fair housing measure which not only protects our nation's minorities, but it protects the needs
You notice
of
how
those
they have to
disabilities.
spend so much time talking about a guy who isn't their nominee, who isn't Joe Biden? Because there's not a lot to say about Joe Biden. And in fact, a lot of Joe Biden's record through his 95 years in the Senate, they're ashamed of now. So they're gonna keep telling us about John Lewis, who is not the nominee. Joe Biden is. There's no real connection here at all. But this is what they're telling us about because they can't talk about Joe Biden.
And fighting for our voting rights. And so we best honor him by continuing to fight the good fights that he fought, by staying in good trouble.
Together, let's fight for what's right, no matter how long or how dark the night.
We will create a beloved community. We will redeem the soul of America. As a nation and as a people, we will get there.
Climb to the and one day we'll win together. One day.
You know, I see this and I just think it's so unfortunate that the Democrat Party decided to nominate a flaming racist. Well, I mean, that's what they said about him. That's what the presidential candidate said about him, not but a couple months ago. She didn't just say he was racist. Remember, she didn't just accuse him of racism. She tearfully accused. She was basically in tears because she was so traumatized by his racism. And but now everything's fine. All right, now we've got who's playing here? Is this
Yes, glorious destined. Everyday women and men become legends. Sins that go against our skin become blessings. The movement is a rhythm to us. Freedom is like religion to us. Justice is juxtapositioning us. Justice for all just ain't specific enough. One son died, his spirit is revisiting us. True and living.
Someone just told me in my ear that's Common and John Legend, because I know who they are. Okay, I know about popular music. I knew about Billie Eilish. I know about Common.
The camera panned up, King pointed to the mountaintop, and we ran up. One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours. It will be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure. We will be sure. Oh, Lord.
Okay, see, this is troubling to me, because they should really be wearing masks right now. Singing, you think about all the particles projected while you're singing. This is a COVID bonanza up here. I'm very disturbed by this.
Of a crowd, they march with the torch, we gon' run with it now. Never look back, we done gone hundreds of miles. From dark roads, heroes, to become a hero. Facing the League of Justice, power was the people. Enemy is lethal, a king became regal. Saw the face of Jim Crow under a bald eagle. The biggest weapon is to stay peaceful. We sing, our music is the cuts that we bleed through. Somewhere in a dream we had an epiphany. Now we right the wrongs in history. No one can win a war individually. It takes the wisdom of the elders, young people's energy. Welcome to the story we call victory. The coming of the Lord, my eyes have seen the glory. One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours. It will be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure.
You notice how much spirituality we're getting from the Democrats all of a sudden in this first hour. It's been nothing but that. We keep hearing about spirituality. We got all the prayers. We got the Satanic Nun, and now we got this gospel song. This is from the group of people at the convention that literally booed God not that long ago. But you know, they will still use it. They'll still use it as a tool of manipulation. So we know that. But this at least is better than the Dixie Chicks. Or at least the Chicks now, not Dixie, because Dixie is racist. They decided, after 20 years, they realized it was racist. Okay, back to the song.
Wow. That was so beautiful, John and Common. Wow.
Is she going to be here the whole night?
Joe Biden shares John Lewis's belief that every vote matters. Personally, I plan to follow the example of 6 current cabinet members, Vice President Coons, and President Trump himself, and vote by mail. To find out everything you need to know about mail-in ballots, your polling place, or even just, am I registered? Text VOTE to 30330. 30330. That would be the president's golf score if he didn't cheat. Okay, I'll admit that was a little nasty, but we all know he's a cheater.
How many 30330 jokes does she have geared up for us? Because the first 2 have bombed miserably.
You know,
and I got to tell you, you know, and I don't say this is not ideological. I'm not just, but the Poonce bit, I don't really even understand what the joke's supposed to be there, but that's not landing. The 30330, it's just not a funny number. I would just move on from that. This is a professional comedian. This is horrible. Now, she doesn't have an audience laughing for her, but that's no excuse. This is just offensive to me.
In his final Sunday sermon, days before his death, Martin Luther King Jr. said, We are tied together in the single garment of destiny. This is the way God's universe is made. This is the way it is structured. A single garment of destiny. We, the people, cannot escape that reality. Nor, as Lincoln taught us, can you and I escape history. And we shouldn't want to, for many of us have been given much: liberty, opportunity, a sense of possibility. The task of our time is to make sure those gifts are available not just to folks who look like me, but to all of us. This is a grave moment.
Look at that. That's interesting. They found
a deadly virus is
They found the one piece of footage of BLM protesters not burning a building down, and they were able to. That's good. They were able to dig that one up.
Democracy is under assault from an incumbent more interested in himself.
Who is this guy speaking right now, by the way?
Of us. Extremism, nativism, isolationism, and a lack of economic opportunity for working people are all preventing us from realizing our nation's promise. And so we must decide whether we will continue to be prisoners of the darkest of American forces, or will we free ourselves to write a brighter, better, nobler story. That's the issue of this election, a choice that goes straight to the nature of the soul of America. Humankind has long viewed the soul as the vital center, the core, the essence of existence. The soul is what makes us, us. In
Yes,
its
the
finest
soul
hours, America's soul has been animated
is
by the
what Democrat
proposition
politicians
that we are
don't
all
have.
created equal.
Can I say, here's the thing. I am really offended that we are hearing right now from a cisgendered white man. I thought we had moved past this in the year 2020. I don't want to hear him mansplaining to me from his place of privilege. What, you're telling me they couldn't find, a Korean transsexual polygamist to give this speech right now? Very offensive.
A country driven by the best parts of our soul, not by the worst. A country informed by reason and candor, not by ego and lies. A country that's big-hearted, not narrow-minded. The struggle to be who we ought to be is difficult, demanding, and ongoing. Justice can be elusive, and change in America has been painful and provisional. The Civil War led to segregation, the New Deal to right-wing reaction, civil rights to white backlash. Yet history, which will surely be our judge, can also be our guide. From Harriet Tubman to Alice Paul to John Lewis, from the beaches of Normandy to the rending of the Iron Curtain, our story has soared when we've built bridges, not walls, when we've lent a hand, not when we've pointed fingers, when we've hoped, not feared. If we live in hope, we open our souls to the power of love. We've been taught to love our neighbors as ourselves. As individuals and as a nation,
utterly
however,
meaningless.
We fail at following that.
We open. Did he just say that? Did I hear that right? We open our souls to the power of love.
Again and again and again. We're only in trial.
Was this written by like an 80s pop star? Is it this speech right now?
Our story has become fuller and fairer because of people who share a conviction that Dr. King articulated on that Sunday half a century ago. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Bending that arc requires all of us. It requires we the people, and it requires a president of the United States with empathy, grace, a big heart, and an open mind. Joe Biden will be such a president. With our voices and our votes, let us now write the next chapter of the American story, one of hope, of love, of justice. If we do so, we might just save our country and our souls.
Good evening. I'm Congresswoman Deb Haaland. I'm grateful to be with you here on Indigenous land. The promise of this country is older than our Constitution. Over 500 years ago, thousands of Indian tribes were vibrant, democratic societies with rich cultures and traditions in communities that had sustained them for millennia on lands they loved and respected. My people, the Pueblo Indians, migrated to the Rio Grande Valley in the late 1200s to escape droughts. We were led to the great river and its tributaries, where we established an agricultural tradition that continues to this day. My people survived centuries of slavery, genocide, and brutal assimilation policies, but throughout our past, tribal nations have fought for and helped build this country. There were those like my Laguna grandparents who worked on our country's railroad, and those like my mother, a Navy veteran who served this country with honor. I stand here today, a proud 35th generation New Mexican and one of the first Native American women ever elected to Congress. I'm a symbol of our resilience as the embodiment of America's
Well, that was Elizabeth
progress
Warren,
as
as we
a
all know.
nation.
Why isn't she giving this
I know we
speech right
can't
now?
take our democracy for granted.
I think she's being marginalized a little bit by
Especially
this.
now, as people are dying, as our land is abused, as our Constitution is under attack. We must work for it by getting involved, by registering voters, by voting. Voting is sacred. My people know that. We weren't universally granted the right to vote until 1962, and that fundamental right is more important than ever. Whether your ancestors have been here for hundreds of years or you're a new citizen, know this: whether we vote and how we vote will determine if our nation's promise of social, racial, and environmental justice will outlast us. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris respect our past and understand our present. They will see us through this crisis of leadership that is plaguing our country, and they will help us to build a better future. Thank you.
Okay, a couple things here. I'm going to read a couple of these comments here. But first of all, a few responses to what we just heard there. Number one, the idea that Native American societies had democracy is absurd. Number two, when you hear that, oh, well, this was indigenous land, you know, that's a category that back 500 years ago wouldn't have made a lot of sense. The idea that the land itself is just owned collectively by Native Americans, that's certainly not how they would have seen it, which is why in the Americas, before Europeans ever showed up, the indigenous people were fighting and killing each other over the land and had been doing that for thousands of years. There was no concept of like, this is a shared collective thing that we own, or I'm going to respect your property rights and I'm not going to try to take it from you. This is a time in the world, across the entire world, not just in the Americas, where you didn't own anything unless you had the ability to defend it, and that's the way the world worked for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and that's the way it worked everywhere among all people. But now we're supposed to look and see that white Europeans were somehow unique in this regard, which is just completely ridiculous. Now, let's go to some of the comments. Zach says, Matt, you're getting hazard pay for this, right? Ben Shirley is looking out for you. No, in fact, I was on Ben's show today, and he said that the way he looked at it was he was the general who was sending his troops in as cannon fodder. So that's the way this is right now. I am the cannon fodder, and I feel that deeply within myself at this moment. Let's see. What the F is environmental justice? Yeah, well, that's a good question. Yeah, it's just jargon that you get from the left, and environmental justice is jargon that they've been using for a while. But speaking of jargon, they can just invent this stuff at the drop of a hat. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Well, what was the phrase exactly? Oh, okay, yeah. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did a video earlier today where she was talking about all the different people in the country and listing all the groups. Of course, not white men. They don't count. And one of the groups she listed was gender expanding people. Gender-expanding. That's a cat. What is that? What is gender expanding? I don't know what that means. Now, look, all I could say is if your gender is expanding, you should stay home. That's a private matter. While your gender is expanding, you should stay home. And then when it's completed, the process, you can come out. Let's see, what else? Max says, I'm glad I upgraded to all access. Are you? Is that sarcasm? I can't tell. All right, let's go back to the feed here.
Despite what he says, Donald Trump can't cancel it. But he and Republicans are making it too hard for so many to cast their ballots. And now he's attacking vote by mail to distract and confuse voters.
And let's be clear, there is absolutely zero difference between voting by mail and voting absentee. Millions of Americans have been voting absentee for decades. Donald Trump, his family, his staff, they all vote by mail. In fact, in states like Colorado, Utah, and Oregon, voters have been voting by mail for years. Republicans and Democrats agree it is safe.
But now Trump has admitted he's trying to sabotage the post office to undermine voting by mail. And we're not going to let him do that. Our job
is this supposed to be a conversation between them?
Vote safely,
What's
whether
happening
in person
right now?
or by mail. And your job is to make sure you vote.
And there's more. Once you've done that, talk to your friends and neighbors. Spread the word. Tell everyone you know to text VOTE to 30330 for more voting options. If you're planning to vote from home, request and return your ballot early. And
don't you like how the left has suddenly decided they love the post office? That's become their new thing. I've always loved the post office. What are you talking about? The 3 times a decade I mail a letter.
Plan to vote.
They're integral to my life.
And head to the polls.
No, we don't need voting by mail. And, I'm one of those people. I'll just come out and say it right now. I have no problem saying I don't want vote by mail. I'll tell you the main reason I don't want it. It's not because of voter fraud, although that is a concern. I don't want it because it's too easy. And I think voting should be a lot harder to do. I think the polling station should be like on the top of a mountain that you have to free climb to or something like that. Or at least there should be a 5th grade civics exam on your way before you can vote. Now, Democrats, they want to make it easier to vote because they want just any old lazy idiot to vote, maybe because they know that the lazy idiot demographic is that's their voting base, and they want to get all of them involved as they can. A couple comments. Someone said back that I saw and I made note of, there was a comment, I'm not finding the name here, but someone said that the reason why they're no longer a police officer is because of the mayor that we heard from Atlanta. And, I've heard that a lot. I've got a lot of messages from police officers, former police officers who are saying they left the force or are thinking of leaving it just because of what's happening, whether it's in Atlanta or another city. And I think I completely understand it. And if I was a police officer, I would have been gone a long time ago, because I'm not nearly as selfless and courageous as a lot of cops are. But it's a sad thing that we're just chasing people away from this integral public service. Laurel says, Matt, I'm part of the lazy idiot demographic, and I find this offensive. Well, look, I am too, is the thing. So I don't, I'm not a Democrat, but I'm part of the demographic too. And so I'm saying this for me as well. Like if voting was a lot harder, I don't even know if I would do it. But if I wouldn't do it, if it's difficult, then you probably don't need to hear from me on voting day. Okay, we got Cory Booker. We got to hear this. This is important.
Know the dignity of all working Americans. They know the urgency and the demand of our dream. But working people are under attack. The wealth gap grows, our middle class shrinks, and poverty persists. Last week, Donald Trump said, and I quote, "Our economy is doing good." While 40 million Americans are at risk of losing their homes, 30 million aren't getting enough to eat, and 5.4 million people have lost their health care because of this crisis. He has failed us. But still, I believe in the dream of our ancestors. Together with Joe and Kamala in the White House, we'll raise the minimum wage so no one who works a full-time job in America lives in poverty. Together, we'll fight for those who keep us healthy, who keep us safe, who teach our children. We'll stand for those who cook and serve and clean, who plant and harvest, who pack, and always those who deliver, whose hands are thick with calluses, like my granddad's were, who lifted me high, who held mine when I was a boy. If he was alive, Joe and Kamala, he would be so proud of you.
Just take it down a few notches, Corey. This is overdone.
And another.
He's like on the verge of tears. It's not bad acting, but it's a little bit soap opera-ish for me, for my taste. Just a little more subtlety for the fake emotions, what I'm asking for here.
And stand together. And America, together, we will rise.
This is my team. You guys build America, not Wall Street. Unions build America.
That's right. The Americans just want to live meekly comfortable. I've got a wife that works as well. We've got a 17 and a 7-year-old at home, and we're still working. Thanks to our international executive board for getting with General Motors and making sure that it's safe for us to return back to work after 8 weeks of being laid off. I mean, it's a hoax at one point, and now here we are, full blown.
Yep. Well, I tell you what, the future of auto workers in America, and I really believe this, can be as bright as it was back in the late 40s, 50s.
Yes.
Simple reason. It's an iconic industry. It's an American industry. We made it. We made it.
Yes. Thank you.
It's been a very interesting 2020. I've been in the fire service 16 years and never experienced anything like COVID. We had to change our whole tactics, the way we did our day-to-day. And now at a hurricane that just came in 2 weeks ago, and we were almost right on the eye. And I mean, we were doing things we never thought we'd be doing. Water rescues with masks on, having to worry about COVID. It was interesting.
How's your family doing?
Well, I'm a single dad. I have a almost 5-year-old who's in my world. And I'm very lucky that my parents are retired. My mom actually retired right after my daughter was born to help us with her. And she was so looking forward to pre-K, going to the big school, like she says. And then unfortunately, all this COVID came in, and now it's all going to be online schooling, which I'm fortunate. I have my parents, but I do have a lot of guys that are double income families, and they're just trying to figure out how they're going to do it with their kids. What arrangements are they going to have to make, since they're not going to be going to school? It's going to be online.
It's 2 people in my household. I have a family of 2, and we have grown-up kids that are no longer in the household. But it takes 2 people to build. We have an ongoing goal of a 5-year goal of buying a house in the next 5 years. So hopefully we'll save.
Look, everybody, you talked about the middle class. The fact is that the way middle class people generate wealth overwhelmingly is building up equity in their home. And that's what gets passed on from one generation to the next, the equity in a home.
Dan Jost on the chat says, where is Corn Pop? Who is he voting for? That's a good question. That's the great mystery of this convention. Why have we not seen Corn Pop? What happened to him?
We need a comprehensive energy policy for renewable
resources. One other point here.
I know you
These are all union members. You notice who's not represented?
The middle class.
The police union.
It's about the jobs.
I wonder why that is.
The future really rests on investment. We're going to be investing $2 trillion in infrastructure, ports, bridges, highways, making sure that we have access to do things that really make a difference, like what you're doing at that solar facility outside of Harrisburg. You know, I'm a Scranton boy. You know, central Pennsylvania is okay, but, you know, northeast. So keep the faith, guys.
Right.
Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I know American workers can count on you.
I know it's not typical for a former Surgeon General to speak at a convention. Surgeons General are appointed by presidents, but our work isn't about politics. Our highest duty is to the public. Our true guide is science, and our job is to speak the truth about public health, even when it's controversial or perceived as political. So here's the truth. Our nation absolutely has what it takes to overcome the COVID-19 pandemic that's claimed tens of thousands of our loved ones. We have the talent, resources, and technology. What we're missing is leadership. We need a leader who works with states to ensure that everyone who needs a test gets one and gets results quickly. A leader who secures a safe, effective vaccine and distributes it quickly and fairly. A leader who inspires us to practice distancing and wear masks, not as a political statement, but as a patriotic duty, a commitment we make to one another. That's why I'm here tonight, not because of politics or for party, but because I know Joe Biden can be that leader.
Right. No, you're at a Democratic convention, not because of politics or party.
He sits with people in their pain,
right,
and holds them in his heart. How he pores over COVID briefings, asking smart questions, letting science guide his way, just as he did when managing the Ebola crisis. And 6 years ago, when Joe Biden met my family, many of them immigrants awed to be in the nation's capital, I saw how he kneeled beside my grandmother's wheelchair, took her hands in his, and said, "Thank you for choosing us, the United States of America, as the place to trust with your family." Tonight, as a father, son, and grandson, as a doctor who swore an oath, and as an American who loves my country, I can tell you that Joe Biden is the man I trust to look out for my family, and the leader I know will heal this nation.
This guy sounds like an automated voice recorder. That was excruciating. By the way, he says, oh, this nation has what it takes to get through the COVID-19. Yeah, we do have what it takes. For a lot of us, it's called an immune system. At a certain point, you have to let, immune systems do something. And that's why for most age demographics, the mortality risk for COVID-19 is very, 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 very small. But if you don't let people build up any kind of immunity, then we're going to be like we are in, look at New Zealand. Okay, they were on their little island there, in one of the farthest flung places in the world, and feeling pretty good. They shut everything down, build up no immunity to it whatsoever, and then they get 4 cases in one family, and they have to shut down their whole society again. And they're thinking about canceling, postponing the election because of 4 cases. And why is that? Well, one, it's just craziness, but 2, it's also they have no immunity to it whatsoever. And that's what's going to happen. All right, who is this person right now that's speaking? Let's listen to this.
Workers who are afraid of losing their jobs. Each story begs this simple, fundamental question, a question that gets to the heart of the choice in this election. What kind of country do we want to be? Do we want to be a country where millionaires get to dodge taxes, or one where working families get a break? Do we want to be a country where medical bills bury people in debt, or one where health care is affordable for all, or where tens of thousands of people die from a virus, or where the American dream lives? I think we know the answer to that fundamental question, because most of us want the same things: good schools in our neighborhoods, racial justice, the freedom to love who we want, dignity in our work, and an economy where small businesses and working families thrive. And over the past months, we've added another to that list: a nation free from COVID. That's why Joe
if we were
Biden
taking
and
shots,
Kamala
if we were taking
Harris
shots for every time someone says the word feel,
they are.
racial,
You see, there's another part of my
justice,
the part
we would
where
all
I
be
ran
dead
for
right now.
office, the part where I served in
Which maybe would be
the part where
preferable,
I worked with Joe
to be honest.
Biden and Barack Obama to make sure kids and grandkids, if they're dependents, can stay on their parents' health insurance until they're 26. We got that done. And yes, it was a big effing deal. That's the America I know.
You said effing.
That's the America I love.
That's going to relate to the kids. All the kids at home are watching this and they're thinking, wow,
Joe Biden and
that
Kamala
woman,
Harris in the
Tammy,
White
whatever her
House.
name is,
A nation
she
that
gets me.
plans, a nation that builds, a nation that builds back. Say it with me there at home: a nation that builds back better. Here in Wisconsin, our state motto is just one word: forward. This November, let's move forward and never look back. Thank you.
That was terrible. And Build Back Better. It's a terrible slogan. Is that his campaign slogan? Is that what it is? Build Back Better?
If you want to help Joe and Kamala make sure that America stays strong and united, please go to joebiden.com and contribute anything that you possibly can. Tonight, I couldn't be prouder to be a loyal union member, a passionate climate activist, and a patriotic Democrat, or as Donald Trump will call me in a tweet tomorrow, a washed-up, horse-faced, no-talent has-been with low ratings. Well, with all due respect, sir, it takes one to know one. And now I'd like to introduce you to a real American hero, World War II veteran Ed Good.
I am Edward Good. I'm 95 years old. I'm a veteran of World War II and of Korea. When I wear a uniform, I wear only two badges, my parachute wings and the combat infantry badge. I did make one combat jump over the Rhine in Germany, and I'm proud of that. I have been a Republican since the 1960s. I'm a member of the NRA, and I voted for Trump. I think Trump has been the worst president we've ever had, so I'll be glad to see him go. I think Joe Biden will be a great leader for the United States. Like me, on the day of my jump into Germany, I think Joe Biden cares about doing his proper duty for the United States, and if he's elected, that's what he will do.
This year's election is very important. Probably be the most important election we've had in years. I recommend strongly, based on the division in this country created by our current president, Donald Trump, we need to put somebody else in the White House that's going to bring us together. Now, let me just explain something. I've been a long-standing Republican for a long time, and I'm telling you, you got to vote for Joe Biden. You have to. I don't think we can deal with the type of person we have in the White House any longer. So it's up to you, America, and me, because in this election, I'm voting for Joe. I'm absolutely sure he's going to help us.
Okay, good for you.
This country together.
Obed says, if we want to help Joe, it's called taking him to an asylum. Yeah, well, you know what? That's not even a joke, because that's true. And I think that every time I see him, it's kind of, yeah, we could sort of laugh about it, because, you know, you have to laugh that they're actually running literally a dementia patient that they're running for office. So just the sheer absurdity of it. But it also is very legitimately sad that they're taking this man who doesn't even understand what's going on and traipsing him up there. And I think the same thing every time I see him.
What was supposed to be a 6-month deployment actually turned into 11 months. There was nothing really to prepare me as a new military spouse on how to deal with the stress.
When people get married, they expect to grow old with each other. With multiple combat tours, there's no guarantee of any of those things.
They're just a long laundry list of uncertainties that we have to juggle.
You know, Joe has always cared about military families. They've been through so much. When I went to Iraq, one of the generals said, you know, I want to share this story with you. In his daughter's class, it was a Christmas program, and they were playing the Ave Maria. And one of the little girls burst into tears. And the teacher ran over and said, "What's the matter? What's the matter?" And she said, "That's the song they played at my daddy's funeral. He died in the war." The teacher had no idea that that little girl's father had fought in the war and had died. And that night I said to my staff, I'm a teacher. We can do better. We've got to do better to help our military kids.
The Bidens have a track record of helping military families, and we've seen it with their work that they've done with joining forces and how they were able to, you know, rally a country behind us.
Men and women we send to war to defend our nation, care for them and their families while they're gone, and care for them and their families when they come home.
It was the very first time that I, as a military spouse, felt like someone was listening to us and someone cared.
It's not just the service member who serves, the entire family serves as well. Joe said we have one sacred obligation, to take care of our military members. During this pandemic, for sure, so many veterans have lost their jobs. So many military spouses have lost their jobs. That's one of the things that will be a priority in a Biden administration. We will make sure that all Americans have health care, employment, the things that families need to thrive.
When people show you who they are, believe them the first time, and we know exactly who Joe is. He is the best candidate for America, not just for our families, but for all families.
Good evening. I'm Tammy Duckworth. When I first enlisted
George
in the
says,
Army,
Matt, how many brain cells would you estimate you've destroyed this evening? I didn't have very many to spare. That's what I'm really starting to worry about. I just do not have a lot to begin with, and so this has been pretty rough, and I'm not making it any better on myself on the brain cell department. So, and now we've got Tammy Duckworth. It's only getting who's let's see, what's the lineup here? So that's Tammy Duckworth. We haven't heard from Buttigieg yet. We still got him, right? And then we got Hunter Biden. It's only getting worse from here, guys. So buckle up.
But military service doesn't just take sacrifice from those in uniform. It's required from their families, too. My husband, Brian, was the one who rushed to Walter Reed after I was wounded in Iraq. He was the one holding my hand, waiting for me to wake up. And when I finally did, he was my rock, getting me through those hours, weeks, months of unspeakable pain and unending surgeries. He was my anchor as I relearned to walk, helping me through every step and every stumble. Our military spouses hold their families together, praying for their loved ones' safety wherever they're deployed and serving as caregivers to our disabled service members, and then picking up the pieces and starting again whenever the next tour or the next war arises. Joe Biden understands these sacrifices because he's made them himself. When his son Beau deployed to Iraq, his burden was also shouldered by his family. Joe knows the fear military families live because he's felt that dread of never knowing if your deployed loved one is safe. He understands their bravery because he has had to muster that same strength every hour of every day Beau was overseas. That's the kind of leader our service members deserve. One who understands the risks they face and who would actually protect them by doing his job as commander-in-chief. Instead, they have a coward-in-chief who won't stand up to Vladimir Putin, read his daily intelligence briefings, or even publicly admonish adversaries for reportedly putting bounties on our troops' heads. As president, Joe Biden would never let tyrants manipulate him like a puppet. He would never pervert our military to stroke his own ego. He would never turn his back on our troops or threaten them against Americans peacefully exercising their constitutional rights.
Yeah, he's not going to stroke his own ego in the office. He's just going to have a stroke. That's what we're worried about here.
Strong against our
Joe
enemies.
Biden.
Because unlike Trump, Joe Biden has common decency. He has common sense. He can command both from experience and from strength. Donald Trump doesn't deserve to call himself commander-in-chief for another 4 minutes, let alone another 4 years. Our troops deserve better. Our country deserves better.
Oh, this is good. Here's a good question. Derek, getting down to the brass tacks, wants to know brand of whiskey. I am drinking Evan Williams, bottled in bond, 100 proof. This is a $16 bottle of whiskey. So I decided to really class it up I figured DNC convention, got to class things up. So I'm wearing my formal shirt. This is as formal as I get. Got the $16 bottle of whiskey. And it's been great. I don't know if great's the right word. It's been something.
Father, brother, son, soldier, attorney general. He was given just 46 years on this earth.
He did in 46 years what most of us couldn't do in 146. Think about the day that dawns for children who are safer because of Beau, whose lives are fuller because of him. Think about the day that dawns for parents who rest easier and families who are freer because of him. Some folks may never know that their lives are better because of Beau Biden, but that's okay. Certainly for Beau, acclaim was never the point of public service.
If you knew Beau, you knew he lived by the strictest code of honor, duty, service, country. You never had to ask if he would do something the right way. He didn't know any other way.
Beau didn't cut corners. He turned down an appointment to be Delaware's Attorney General so he could win it fair and square. When the field was clear for him to run for the Senate, he chose to finish his job as AG instead. After 9/11, he joined the National Guard. He felt it was his obligation. He did his duty to his country and deployed to Iraq.
Beau Biden served his country in battle. He prosecuted one of the worst child predators in American history. And even though he is no longer with us, every day he still inspires the next president of the United States.
It won't be possible for me to be here this fall, so I have something to ask of you. Be there for my dad, like he was for me.
A couple of years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer, and I was absolutely terrified. One of the first people who called me was Joe. His real warmth and kindness on that call, man, I gotta say, it made me cry. Our current president has made me cry too, but it's never had anything to do with his warmth or kindness. Joe Biden's empathy is genuine. You can feel it. That's why President Obama
what I've heard so far tonight, just to tell me what you guys, what you've learned so far tonight. But what I've heard is Joe Biden's a nice guy, great family, wonderful guy, very nice. John Lewis, great man. I've heard all this, but if I'm actually watching this, thinking about voting for the Democratic ticket, I don't really know what he stands for, what his policies are, what he plans to do in office. I don't know any of that. I just know that he's very nice. Oh, well, and of course, before I know anything else, the number one thing that I know that I would learn from this is, of course, Orange Man bad. Donald Trump is a mean, nasty guy. Fine. Okay, now we got Buttigieg. This is where things are really going to get hard to watch.
I believe in this country because America uniquely holds the promise of a place where everyone can belong. We know that for too many and for too long, that promise has been denied. But we also know America is at its best when we make that circle of belonging wider. Just over 10 years ago, I joined a military where firing me because of who I am wasn't just possible, it was policy. Now, in 2020, it is unlawful in America to fire someone because of who they are or who they love. The very ring on my finger, a wedding we celebrated, here where I'm standing, reflects how this country can change. Love makes my marriage real, but political courage made it possible, including that of Joe Biden, who stepped out ahead even of this party when he said that marriage equality ought to be the law of the land. There is a long way to go. But if this much can change between 2010 and 2020, imagine what could change between now and 2030. Imagine what we could achieve, this coalition we are building this very season, gathering progressives and moderates, independents, and even what I like to call future former Republicans, standing for an America where everyone belongs. Joe Biden is right. This is a contest for the soul of the nation. And to me, that contest is not between good Americans and evil Americans. It's the struggle to call out what is good in every American. It's up to us. Will America be a place where faith is about healing and not exclusion? Can we become a country that lives up to the truth that Black lives matter? Will we handle questions of science and medicine?
I'll answer that question for you right now, Buttigieg. Can we become a country that says Black Lives Matter? Yeah, we can. In fact, the great news is that we are that country right now. That's, in fact, unanimous agreement on that point across the entire country. So yeah, we've come there. We're there. That's the good news. Also, you notice how he says that America's so accepting of gay rights and all of that. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Because I thought we were told that Trump is some sort of fascist homophobe. So that's not exactly what you would expect, is it?
I campaigned for the presidency, often with my husband Chasten at my side, winning delegates to this very convention. Now I come to this convention proudly supporting Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, joining fellow Democrats who were squaring off in competition just a few months ago. A number of us recently got together to talk about the Joe we know.
Hi, I'm Cory Booker. Welcome to everybody at home. I am very excited to present to you a group of people that ran in the 2020 Democratic primary against Joe Biden. You could think of this sort of like Survivor, like on the out interviews of all the people that got voted off the island.
We escaped them, but they're back. We have to hear from all these people again.
Bernie, don't you laugh, because I got questions for you, like, why does my girlfriend like you more than she likes me? But let's move on.
Because she's smarter than you, and that's the obvious answer, right?
Hey, I'm curious because Senator Sanders and Senator Klobuchar, you actually served with Joe Biden in the Senate. I'm wondering if you have any memories of what he was like as a colleague in the Senate.
Well, I remember one night when I was giving one of those floor speeches, and Cory, you know what this is like. No one was there. No one was watching. I was all alone, and I gave my speech with much vigor to a completely empty chamber.
Did you see that with Cory Booker there? He realized the camera was on him, so he had to put the fake smile on. Like, these people hate each other. You realize that, right? They absolutely detest each other, and they have to pretend. Oh, look at there's Bernie there. They're all family and friends now.
Joe Biden.
Water under the bridge.
It goes to not only his kindness for calling me and being a mentor, but it also goes to how much he cares about our government and what people are saying, and that even when he's at home at night, he's watching and he cares.
But Amy, we all want to know, did your mother watch the speech?
I know.
You remember the steak fry when we were waiting to go on? It worked out to where I was there the same time he was. And he pulled me aside.
He has a faker laugh like Kamala Harris.
Somebody who we both knew who was working on my
campaign. It wasn't even a smile and a laugh. It was just an open.
Let me know that was somebody who'd gone through a family tragedy that Joe somehow knew about. And just thought it was important for me to know that about someone who was working with me. And I thought, over time, I realized that was just basic to who he is, but that always stuck with me.
Elizabeth, do you have any remembrances as well?
I think the day I saw Joe the clearest was on the 1-year anniversary of the Boston Marathon bombing. And everyone,
all
of course,
these
was
people
enormously honored to have
were
the
saying
vice
before
president.
that he is an antiquated dinosaur racist.
He shifted.
And now they have nothing but fond memories. Yeah, people in the chat here, which, by the way, if you want to participate in the Daily Wire chats, you can just become an all-access member. Go to dailywire.com right now. Use coupon code ACCESS, get 20% off. But people commenting on that comment from Booker, why does my girlfriend like you more than me? I'm trying to have discipline here. This is a live thing. It's been, we're going on 2 hours. I've got whiskey. I'm trying really hard to be careful in the jokes that I make, but so many jokes there to be made about that question. But we're just going to move. We're going to move past it. I think I don't need to say them out loud because we all know.
You can see it with him choosing Kamala too. He wants to build the best team. Let's do it together. That's how we're going to rebuild this country.
Cory, I'm so optimistic about our country right now, despite some very dark days for a lot of our fellow Americans.
You're optimistic about the country. We've heard nothing but from the Democrats for the last 4 years that the country's falling apart. It's systemically racist. We're being led by Hitler. Okay, we're being led by Hitler. It's racist. Racial minorities are being hunted in the street and executed by bigoted Klan member cops. But I'm optimistic. I feel good about except for all that stuff, except for the Hitler bit and the racism. I feel pretty good.
The way that Joe and Kamala are listening to them and incorporating their ideas and their urgency into the campaign that they're running and the administration that they're going to lead.
And I often think some people who say they don't know if they're going to vote or not are saying that from a point of privilege that a lot of Americans don't have. There are so many things for lots of folks who live life on the margins that this election is going to decide. And maybe it's not a life or death issue for you, but we are all in this together.
Absolutely.
Corey, what I would say is that this is clearly the most important election in the modern history of this country. And Joe Biden, you have a human being.
This is like in the reality show at the end of the finale, like Survivor or something, where they bring all the losers back and they have to pretend to be happy for the guy who won. That's what we're watching right now.
My God.
And this is probably the most entertaining part of the convention so far for me. Anyway, if you like cringe comedy, then this is pretty good.
The moderates or conservatives have got to come together to defeat this president.
Thanks for that, Bernie. I want to thank you all for joining us for this segment. I mean this sincerely. It was an honor to run against you. And it is even a greater honor to stand with you in support of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
Good evening. I've never been much for partisan politics.
Oh, not this guy.
I've supported Democrats, Republicans, and independents.
They're really bringing him back.
I've actually been
Can we just remember? No. Remember something about this guy. Okay, of all the things we could say about Bloomberg, the number one thing. This will be his legacy. Remember that video, him licking his fingers and then putting his hand all over the pizza that's being shared by the entire office. He just slobbers over every finger and then actually makes a point of touching every piece. And this was in the lead up to COVID. You know how many people he probably killed doing that? That was the deadliest pizza party in American history. This guy, his fault.
While the other has not only failed to lead, he has made the current crisis much worse. When confronted with the biggest calamity any president has faced in the modern era, Donald Trump spent the year downplaying the threat, ignoring science, and recommending quack cures, which let COVID-19 spread much faster than it should have, leaving hundreds of thousands needlessly sick or dead. He has failed the American people catastrophically. 4 years ago, I came before this very convention and said, New Yorkers know a con when we see one. But tonight, I'm not asking you to vote against Donald Trump because he's a bad guy. I'm urging you to vote against him because he's done a bad job.
He's not a bad
Today,
guy. Okay.
Unemployment is at historic
We have
highs.
literally heard probably 65 times just tonight that he's a bad guy, but now he's not. He's not a bad guy. He's a decent guy, but he's Hitler, but he's decent.
So I want to ask small business owners and their employees one question, and it's a question for everyone. Would you rehire or work for someone who ran your business into the ground and who always does what's best for him or her, even when it hurts the company, and whose reckless decisions put you in danger, and who spends more time tweeting than working? If the answer is no, why the hell would we ever rehire Donald Trump for another 4 years? Trump says we should vote for him because he's a great businessman? Really? He drove his companies into bankruptcy 6 times, always leaving behind customers and contractors who had cheated and swindled and stopped doing business with him. Well, this time, all of us are paying the price, and we can't let him get away with it again. Donald says we should vote for him because the economy was great before the virus. Huh? Biden and Obama created more jobs over their last 3 years than the Trump administration did over their first 3. And economic growth was higher under Biden and Obama than under Trump.
In these speeches is just off the charts. I mean, I was expecting it, of course. It is a political speech, after all, like I said at the beginning, but this is even
so when Trump says
more extreme than I expected.
Great again, he's making a pretty good case for Joe Biden. Look, our goal shouldn't be to bring back the pandemic economy. It should be, as Joe says, to build it back better. Joe's economic plan will create clean energy jobs that help fight another crisis that Trump is ignoring, climate change. And Joe will rebuild our crumbling roads and bridges, something Trump has incessantly talked about doing, But in the last 3.5 years, he hasn't done anything. What a joke. And let me tell you a little secret. Donald Trump's economic plan was to give a huge tax cut to guys like me who didn't need it, and then lie about it to everyone else. Well, Joe will roll back that tax cut that I got so we can fund things our whole country needs.
Andrew Hensley says a fly just flew on his mouth. Did that happen? I missed it. Did it fly into his mouth or on his mouth?
So that
that's the most exciting thing that's happened this whole time. I didn't notice it.
By American workers.
Just my luck.
You know, growing up, I was taught to believe that America is the greatest country in the world. Not because we won the Second World War, but because of why we fought it for freedom, democracy, and equality. My favorite childhood book was called Johnny Tremaine, about a Boston boy who joins the Sons of Liberty at the dawn of the American Revolution. At the end of the book, Johnny stands on Lexington Commons and sees a nation that is, quote, green with spring, dreaming of the future. That's the America I know and love. And that's the America we are in danger of losing under this president. So let's put an end to this whole sorry chapter in American history and elect leaders who will bring integrity and stability, sanity, and competence
Laurel
back to the
says if you
White
want to pay
House.
more taxes, more in taxes, then do it, Bloomberg. Yeah, every time you hear these rich liberals say, trying to sound magnanimous and saying, I want to pay more in taxes, but they refuse to take it from me. I just don't know what to do. Well, hey, if you want to write a check for the IRS, you can do that. Hey, anyone can do it. Anybody, that's the great thing. Anyone who thinks that taxes should be higher and that they themselves should be taxed more, write the check, send it to the IRS. I've never done that willingly. You know, I've never just sent a bonus check to the IRS because I'm not an insane person. But if you are and you send it, I'm pretty sure they'll take it. So Bloomberg could definitely do that.
Here in New Hampshire and help to find his voice. Say hello to Braden Harrington.
Hi, my name is Braden Harrington, and I'm 13 years old. And without Joe Biden, I wouldn't be talking to you today. About a few months ago, I met him in New Hampshire. He told me that we were members of the same club. We stutter. It was really amazing to hear that someone like me became vice president. He told me about a book of poems by Yeats he would read out loud to practice. He showed me how he marks his addresses to make them easier to say out loud. So I did the same thing today. And now I'm here talking to you today about the future, about our future. My family often says when the world feels better before talking about something normal, like going to the movies. We all want the world to feel better. We need the world to feel better. I'm just a regular kid, and in a short amount of time, Joe Biden made me more confident about something that's bothered me my whole life. Joe Biden cared. Imagine what he could do for all of us. Kids like me are counting on you to elect someone we can all look up to. Someone who cares. Someone who will make our country and the world feel better. We're counting on you to elect Joe Biden.
Yeah, I got to tell you, a lot of comments here saying that, putting a kid up there is exploitation. I absolutely agree. I hate it so much when people do that. I really do. Especially as a father myself, I got 4 kids, and the idea of involving them in politics in any capacity, especially on such a public stage like this, I would never do it. How does that benefit the child? That's what you have to ask yourself. It's a 13-year-old kid, right? That's a very young child. And so how does it benefit? Okay, I know how it benefits a candidate, if you put your kid up there and let your kid be used as a pawn. How is your child benefited by that? I can't see it. I can't see the benefit. I can see a lot of downside. I can't see the benefit. And so it always, when people put their kids up, involve them in this way, it feels exploitative to me, and I really don't like it.
No, this is good.
So what don't I know about your grandfather?
He's always eating ice cream. Usually it's like vanilla with chocolate sprinkles. Vanilla on a regular night.
No, chocolate chip in it. Chocolate and the
Okay, now we're getting a discussion about what kind of ice cream Joe Biden likes to eat. That's what we're getting right now at the Democrat. We are watching a Democrat National Convention, in case you forgot what we're watching. And right now we're having a discussion about what kind of ice cream. Right now, Joe Biden's granddaughters are having a debate about what kind of ice cream their grandfather likes. We still don't know what his policies are, what he actually wants to do for the country, but we know that he likes vanilla. What is it, vanilla ice cream?
After he's just done 15 interviews in a row. Hi, Pop. I was just talking about you. I don't necessarily pick up every day, but I have a lot of voicemails. He will pick up our calls no matter where he is. He'd be like on stage giving a speech, and we'd call him and he'd be like, "What's wrong? Is everything good?" And we'd be like, "Just calling to check in." Yeah.
What does the word family mean to you?
It's a lot of time together. It's like we've grown up together. He's made sure that every single tradition, every holiday, we're all together. I don't think that there's been any decision, no matter how big or small, that we haven't decided as a family. Pop told us that this election would be totally different from any other election ever. He was worried how it would affect his kids. Whether or not we wanted to go through another campaign and be scrutinized by the press. There had been talks of a big meeting coming. It's normally called by the parents, I would say, but this time it was called by me. I came down from Penn, and Maisie came up from DC, and my cousins lived down the road. He thought we were calling a meeting sort of to discuss, whether or not we wanted him to, but really we were calling it to be like, get in that race, hurry up. We just knew that he had to run, and we weren't gonna take no as an answer. At the end of the day, I think we're all very happy we had that meeting.
All right, well, when you get back there, give me a call to tell me how the whole thing went, okay?
Okay, I will.
I love you, baby.
I love you too.
We want to ensure that our kids live in a nation that is safe, happy,
Yeah, I'm sure that's
healthy,
totally unscripted, right? Joe Biden, they're filming a piece about Joe Biden, and he just so happens to call on speakerphone. That's totally organic.
Let's jump right in, shall we?
You see what they're doing here. They're just going way overboard with the Joe Biden's a nice guy stuff, but because they're playing on the image of Trump as this big mean guy, and I really hope that the Republicans don't make the mistake of trying to answer this by doing their own 4-day festival of how nice Trump is. Like, what the Republicans need to do is just get down to business and say, okay, we're not going to give you all that fluff about ice cream. We're going to tell you what Donald Trump will actually do for America, what he has done, and so on and so forth.
You want to go right now? Do you know where the president lives?
In the White House, Washington, D.C.
Do you know what the president's job is?
To tell what happened to the world.
That's good. That's a good one.
Keep the environment safe.
That is correct.
So,
as we
okay,
said.
hold on. What? This is Steph Curry talking to his kids about the president. Why? What do we need this at the Democrat National Convention for? I mean, they're nice kids, but why?
What would you like to see taken care of?
On top of the exploitative angle, what is Steph Curry doing here in the first place?
And the people.
So, girls, it is 2020 and the election is coming up in November. Do you know who is running for president?
Joe Biden.
Yeah.
And exactly, that's it. This video's over.
What would you say if you knew that Joe Biden was going to have a woman as his vice president?
Surprised, happy.
Why?
There's not a lot of women. How being president and helping alongside the president.
How important do you think?
The answer is that these kids don't even know what a vice president is because they're kids, and I'm not sure what. We're getting a 5-minute interview with Steph Curry's kids. We're getting a civics quiz with Steph Curry's kids at the Democrat National Convention. When someone can figure out why this is happening, let me know. If anyone knows, is this even happening? Did I pass out and now I'm hallucinating this? That might be the case. I'm having an existential crisis right now as we watch this.
Is making sure that you vote this election for Biden. Whatever you do, please vote. Every vote counts. Just remember that. You gonna dance out?
Here's the big question. How much of your time and energy are you willing to devote to elect Joe Biden? Here's my answer. I'm going all in. Look, elections can break your heart, but sometimes they can make you sing from the mountaintops. And this year, we're going to sing. This year, we're going to elect a president who's honest, experienced, and intelligent. A president who actually believes in the rule of law, who will restore dignity and normalcy to the White House and the soul of this nation. And boy, won't that be something? One of my favorite things Joe Biden says is that you can succeed in life without sacrificing your ideals or your commitment to family. So, who better to introduce our nominee, Joe Biden, than his children?
I'm Hunter Biden.
Is she drunk?
And I'm Ashley Biden.
I'm
Joe
getting
Biden
drunk
is our
vibes from.
dad.
And Beau is our brother.
We want to tell you what kind of president our dad will be.
He will be tough,
And honest.
caring, and principled.
He'll listen. He'll be there when you need him.
He'll tell you the truth even when you don't want to hear it.
He'll never let you down.
He'll be rock steady.
The strongest shoulder you can ever lean on.
He'll beam with pride every time you succeed.
He'll make your grandkids feel that what they've got to say matters.
He'll treat everyone with respect, no matter who you are.
He'll get up no matter how many
Joe
times he's
Biden
been
is the
knocked down.
greatest man that has ever lived on Earth, is what I'm taking. He is a perfect specimen of humanity, is Joe Biden. 3.5 months ago, he was a racist Klansman, but now he is the greatest, most loving man who has ever lived. Good to know, but good to know, but it still doesn't make me any more inclined to vote for him for president, because that doesn't matter to me. Really, I don't care how nice a guy is when it comes to the president.
Just like it was yesterday.
In 2008 and 2012, he introduced our dad at those conventions.
And if he was here, we're pretty sure we'd know what he'd say.
So before we show you a film about our dad's journey, we wanted to give Beau the last word. Beau?
Beau, take it away.
In moments both public and private, he's the father I've always known, the grandfather my children love and adore, my father, my hero, Joe Biden.
Okay, we really have seen enough emotional footage with the piano music and people walking in slow motion. We've seen quite enough of that. We get it. We get it. Thank you.
But the American
Chris says this night is taking its toll on me. It's taking its toll on all of us. That's why I said we're in the trenches together, and a bond will be formed in our shared trauma. And I really feel that way. I feel a connection with all of you. I really do. I don't really feel a connection with Joe Biden. I don't know that I want a connection with him. He's a little too handsy for my taste, but maybe eventually we'll get to, like, at some point, will someone mention some sort of policy or something that Joe Biden supports?
companies faced bankruptcy, and many said, let them fail. But Joe remembered his father and what it meant to lose a job. The Finnegans and Bidens were Irish Catholic. Joe was their first. And then his sister Valerie.
From the moment I opened my eyes, my big brother was there. The thing that was most important was family and family and family.
As the post-war boom faded, Joe's father struggled to find work in Scranton. But 140 miles south, there was a job.
I am praying for death right now. I can't.
There's a long stairway up to the
This is so much worse than I was expecting. You know, it really is.
And saying, Joey,
it's worse in a different kind of way. I was expecting like just a lot of left-wing lunacy. We got a little bit of that. I was not expecting 47 video packages with emotional piano music telling us that Joe Biden is the greatest man who's ever lived. I wasn't quite, maybe I should have expected that. I wasn't. A lot of comments coming into the to the discussion forum, and remember, you can become an all-access member. Go to dailywire.com, and right now you get 20% off. Use coupon code ACCESS. So, and we're gonna, after this is over, we'll wrap things up, give our, sort of collect ourselves, try to regain our dignity after this. And that's a discussion that you can only be a part of if you're an all-access member. So you can go right now, dailywire.com, all access.
Talking to them on the phone, one-on-one. He gave all of them his cell phone.
And I watched him bring his heart to that job. It matters that you have in your mind the family that you're trying to reach, the neighborhood that you're trying to reach, the people whose lives are affected by what you do.
The skills that had made him so effective had not come easy. When he entered school, there was a problem. Joe had a stutter.
And it's mortifying. It allows that child to become an object of ridicule.
When his teacher mimicked him and Joe ran home from school, his mother drove him back.
Did you say to my son, Mr. Biden? The nun said I was just.
Are they really telling us about the stutter again? We're going back to that well? Are we gonna go back to the ice cream too? We need. I need more discussion on his ice cream flavor. I wasn't quite sure. I know he likes vanilla, but what toppings does he like? I wasn't sure about that. Was it chocolate sprinkles? Does he like hot fudge? Does he like whipped cream? Where does he stand on the cherry on top? These are the kinds of things I need to know. Hopefully we'll get to that here.
Make me look her in the eye. Look at me. Remember, Joey, you're the smartest boy in that class. Nobody's better than you, Joey. From having to deal with stuttering, it gave me insight into other people's pain, other people's suffering.
At 19, Joe sought out a summer job that few of his peers considered taking.
He was a lifeguard along with the black lifeguards. That's when I first seen Joe, and we became friends.
It was one of the best things I've ever done because it gave me a sense that we really didn't know one another.
After Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, riots broke out in Wilmington, and the National Guard stayed for almost a year.
I quit the law firm and asked for a job.
This is why I said at the beginning, you have to be such a narcissist. This is no great insight, of course, but you have to be such an unbelievable narcissist to run for office. Because any normal person, can you think of how uncomfortable you would be as a normal person that you have to go up and give a speech after a 2-hour introduction talking about how you can literally walk on water and you are, saintlier than Jesus Christ himself. Like, any normal person would be super uncomfortable with that. Way too much, can't live up to it. But politicians, they feed on this kind of thing. They can't get enough of it.
We'd have a coffee and we'd come out of that, we'd have 5 more coffees.
He was very articulate on the issues. He brought people to say, not just that, well, I agree with what you're doing, is, what can I do to help?
Delaware is the first state. J. Caleb Boggs, who is the incumbent Republican, being challenged by Joseph Biden. Biden is a
Nathan Walton says, I was teased as a child for being skinny, but now I have a beer gut. I understand skinny people problems. Well, I got to say, Nathan, I find your story so inspiring to me personally, that you were able to overcome that and, be the kind of person you wanted to be. And so that also is a really inspiring. I think you should get your own 5-minute video montage on that.
They convinced me to stay. Just stay 6 months, Joe. Remember, Jenny? Just stay 6 months.
He couldn't allow the suffering to debilitate him. Just like he couldn't allow the stuttering to define him. That's the backbone. There's something bigger than Joe's suffering.
The Senate turned out to be a wonderful place for him. He had a real gift for bringing people together.
The three of them had a bond that was forged in sorrow and expanded into joy when Jill entered.
They had built this beautiful family, this circle of trust.
And then the extra gift of Ashley.
Growing up, it was full of adventure, laughter.
We do everything as a family, and we've always done everything as a family.
He was always a good, loving father. I mean, there's nothing more important to Joe than his children.
It's hard to explain how ever-present he was in our lives.
You don't have to guess what my dad believes. A great benefit of being my father is that he doesn't have to contort himself into different people at different times.
Bo was going to do fine things. I mean, he had it all. And then he got sick. The whole world tilted, and it felt like we were all falling off.
Once again, Joe faced the unimaginable.
My mother, she said, bravery resides in every heart, and someday it will be summoned.
The way he survived losing my mom and my sister, and then losing my brother, is understanding that you have to have purpose.
Every day I get up, I ask myself, I hope he's proud of me, because that's what makes me move on.
From his time in the Senate and then the White House, Joe always found a way forward, forging unlikely friendships and alliances. And time after time, he made progress possible, and always holding in his heart the struggles of his family and every family, always fighting to make his country whole.
It's a very rare quality to bring your empathy skills to the process of governing. Joe Biden never forgets that that's the point of moving the wheels of government.
He will keep his word. He will reach out and hear what other people have to say.
To have somebody who believes in what's best in us, somebody like Joe Biden who actually believes in the American idea, that's the kind of person who I want in the White House.
Oh, thank God.
Good evening.
Well, no, we have to hear this, though.
Baker, a giant of the civil rights movement, left us with this wisdom. Give people light, and they will find the way. Give people light. Those are words for our time. The current president has cloaked American darkness for much too long. Too much anger, too much fear, too much division. Here and now, I give you my word. If you entrust me with the presidency, I will draw on the best of us, not the worst. I'll be an ally of the light, not the darkness. It's time for us, for we the people, to to come together. And make no mistake, united we can and will overcome this season of darkness in America. We'll choose hope over fear, facts over fiction, fairness over privilege. I'm a proud Democrat, and I'll be proud to carry the banner of our party into the general election. So it's with great honor and humility I accept this nomination.
And humility.
Of the United States of America.
Yeah, humility after 2 hours of
I will be an American president.
Of sequential ass kissing. Now he's super humble. Paul Taylor says, "Is this live?" I pretty much guarantee you it is not. This is a great advantage for the Democrats that, you know, they probably shot this speech 7 times before they got the right, and they can stitch it all together. So I feel like we're going to be deprived. We've waited all this time. What's the payoff? What's the dessert at the end of this horrible, horrible meal? It's that we get all the Joe Biden flubs and all that entertaining stuff. And I'm afraid we're not going to get it because this probably has already been taped and they can edit that stuff out, but we'll see.
Red states or blue states? We're so much bigger than that. We're so much better than that. You know, nearly a century ago, Franklin Roosevelt pledged a New Deal in a time of massive unemployment, uncertainty, and fear. Stricken by a disease, stricken by a virus, FDR insisted that he would recover and prevail, and he believed America could as well. And he did, and we can as well. This campaign isn't just about winning votes. It's about winning the heart and, yes, the soul of America. Winning it for the generous among us, not the selfish. Winning it for workers who keep this country going, not just the privileged few at the top. Winning it for those communities who have known the injustice of a knee on the neck. For all the young people who have known only America being rising inequity and shrinking opportunity. They deserve the experience of America's promise. They deserve to experience it in full. You know, no generation ever knows what history will ask of it. All we can ever know is whether we're ready when that moment arrives. And now history has delivered us to one of the most difficult moments America's ever faced. Four historic crises, all at the same time. A perfect storm. The worst pandemic in over 100 years. The worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. The most compelling call for racial justice since the 60s. And the undeniable realities and just the accelerating threats of climate change. So the question for us is simple. Are we ready? I believe we are. We must be. You know, all elections are important. But we know in our bones this one is more consequential. As many have said, America is at an inflection point. A time of real peril, but also of extraordinary possibilities. We can choose a path of becoming angrier, less hopeful, more divided, a path of shadow and suspicion, or we can choose a different path and together take this chance to heal, to reform, to unite, a path of hope and light. This is a life-changing election. This will determine what America is going to look like for a long, long time. Character is on the ballot. Compassion is on the ballot. Decency, science, democracy, they're all on the ballot. Who we are as a nation, what we stand for, and most importantly, who we want to be, that's all on the ballot. And the choice could not be more clear. No rhetoric is needed. Just judge this president on the facts. 5 million Americans infected by COVID-19. More than 170,000 Americans have died. By far the worst performance of any nation on earth. More than 50 million people have filed for unemployment this year. More than 10 million people are going to lose their health insurance this year. Nearly 1 in 6 small businesses have closed this year. And this president, if he's reelected, you know what will happen. Cases and deaths will remain far too high. More mom and pop businesses will close their doors, and this time for good. Working families will struggle to get by. And yet the wealthiest 1% will get tens of billions of dollars in new tax breaks. And the assault on the Affordable Care Act will continue until it's destroyed, taking insurance away from more than 20 million people, including more than 15 million people on Medicaid, and getting rid of the protections that President Obama worked so hard to get passed for people who have 100 million more people who have pre-existing conditions. And speaking of President Obama, a man I was honored to serve alongside for 8 years as vice president, let me take this moment to say something we don't say nearly enough. Thank you, Mr. President. You were a great president, a president our children could and did look up to. No one's going to say that about the current occupant of the White House. What we know about this president is if he's given 4 more years, he'll be what he's been for the last 4 years. A president who takes no responsibility, refuses to lead, blames others, cozies up to dictators, and fans the flames of hate and division. He'll wake up every day believing the job is all about him, never about you. Is that the American you want for you, your family, your children? I see a different America, one that's generous and strong, selfless and humble. It's an America we can rebuild together. As president, the first step I will take will be to get control of the virus that has ruined so many lives. Because I understand something this president hasn't from the beginning. We will never get our economy back on track. We will never get our kids safely back in schools. We'll never have our lives back until we deal with this virus. The tragedy of where we are today is it didn't have to be this bad. Just look around. It's not this bad in Canada or Europe or Japan or almost anywhere else in the world. And the president keeps telling us the virus is going to disappear. He keeps waiting for a miracle. Well, I have news for him. No miracle is coming. We lead the world in confirmed cases. We lead the world in deaths. Our economy is in tatters, with Black, Latino, Asian American, Native American communities bearing the brunt of it. And after all this time, the president still does not have a plan. Well, I do. If I'm your president, on day one, we'll implement the national strategy I've been laying out since March. We'll develop and deploy rapid tests with results available immediately. We'll make the medical supplies and protective equipment that our country needs. And we'll make them here in America, so we will never again be at the mercy of China or other foreign countries in order to protect our own people. We'll make sure our schools have the resources they need to be open, safe, and effective. We'll put politics aside. We'll take the muzzle off our experts so the public gets the information they need and deserve. Honest, unvarnished truth. They can handle it. We'll have a national mandate to wear masks, not as a burden, but as a patriotic duty to protect one another. In short, we'll do what we should have done from the very beginning. Our current president has failed in his most basic duty to the nation. He's failed to protect us. He's failed to protect America. And my fellow Americans, that is unforgivable. As president, I'll make you a promise. I'll protect America. I will defend us from every attack, seen and unseen, always, without exception, every time. Look, I understand. I understand how hard it is to have any hope right now. On this summer night, let me take a moment to speak to those of you who have lost the most. I have some idea how it feels to lose someone you love. I know that deep black hole that opens up in the middle of your chest and you feel like you're being sucked into it. I know how mean and cruel and unfair life can be sometimes. But I've learned 2 things. First, your loved one may have left this earth, but they'll never leave your heart. They'll always be with you. You'll always hear them. And second, I found the best way through pain and loss and grief is to find purpose. As God's children, each of us have a purpose in our lives. We have a great purpose as a nation to open the doors of opportunity to all Americans, to save our democracy, to be a light to the world once again, and finally to live up to and make real the words written in the sacred documents that founded this nation, that all men and women are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You know, my dad was an honorable, decent man. He got knocked down a few times pretty hard, but he always got back up. He worked hard, and he built a great middle-class life for our family. He used to say, Joey, I don't expect the government to solve my problems, but I sure in hell expect them to understand them. And then he'd say, Joey, a job is about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about your place in the community. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay, and mean it. I've never forgotten those lessons. That's why my economic plan is all about jobs, dignity, respect, and community. Together we can and will rebuild our economy. And when we do, we'll not only build back, we'll build back better. With modern roads, bridges, highways, broadband, ports and airports as a new foundation for economic growth, with pipes that transport clean water to every community, with 5 million new manufacturing and technology jobs, so the future is made in America. With a healthcare system that lowers premiums, deductibles, drug prices, by building on the Affordable Care Act he's trying to rip away. With an education system that trains our people for the best jobs of the 21st century. There's not a single thing American workers can't do. And where cost doesn't prevent young people from going to college and student debt doesn't crush them when they get out. With a child care and elder care system that makes it possible for parents to go to work and for the elderly to stay in their homes with dignity. With an immigration system that powers our economy and reflects our values. And with newly empowered labor unions. They're the ones that built the middle class. With equal pay for women, with rising wages, you can raise a child on, a family on. And yes, we're going to do more than praise our essential workers. We're finally going to pay them. Pay them. We can and we will deal with climate change. It's not only a crisis, it's an enormous opportunity. An opportunity for America to lead the world in clean energy and create millions of new, good-paying jobs in the process. And we can pay for these investments by ending loopholes, unnecessary loopholes, and the president's $1.3 trillion tax giveaway to the wealthiest 1% and the biggest, most profitable corporations, some of which do not pay any tax at all. Because we don't need a tax code that rewards wealth more than it rewards work. I'm not looking to punish anyone. Far from it. But it's long past time the wealthiest people and the biggest corporations in this country paid their fair share. And for our seniors, Social Security is a sacred obligation, a sacred promise made. They paid for. The current president is threatening to break that promise. He's proposing to eliminate a tax that pays for almost half the Social Security without any way of making up for that lost revenue, resulting in cuts. I will not let that happen. If I'm your president, we're going to protect Social Security and Medicare. You have my word. One of the most powerful voices we hear in the country today is from our young people. They're speaking to the inequity and injustice that has grown up in America. economic injustice, racial injustice, environmental injustice. I hear their voices. If you listen, you can hear them too. And whether it's the existential threat posed by climate change, the daily fear of being gunned down in school, or the inability to get started in your first job, it will be the work of the next president to restore the promise of America to everyone. And I'm not going to have to do it alone, because I'll have a great vice president at my side. Senator Kamala Harris, she's a powerful voice for this nation. Her story is the American story. She knows about all the obstacles thrown in the way of so many in our country. Women, Black Americans, South Asian Americans, immigrants, the left out and the left behind. But she's overcome every obstacle she's ever faced. No one's been tougher on the big banks and the gun lobby. No one's been tougher in calling out the current administration for its extremism, its failure to follow the law, its failure to simply tell the truth. Kamala and I both draw from our families. That's where we get our strength. For Kamala, it's Doug and their families. For me, it's Jill and ours. I've said many times, no man deserves one great love in his life, let alone two. But I've known two. After losing my first wife in that car accident, Jill came into my life. She put our family back together. She's an educator, a mom, a military mom, and an unstoppable force. If she puts her mind to it, just get out of the way. She's going to get it done. She was a great second lady, and I know she'll make a great first lady for this nation. She loves this country so much. And I'll always have the strength that can only come from family. Hunter, Ashley, all our grandchildren, my brothers, my sister, they give me courage. They lift me up. While he's no longer with us, Bo inspires me every day. Bo served our nation in uniform. A year in Iraq, a decorated Iraqi war veteran. So I take very personally the profound responsibility of serving as commander-in-chief. I'll be a president who will stand with our allies and friends and make it clear to our adversaries the days of cozying up to dictators is over. Under President Biden, America will not turn a blind eye to Russian bounties on the heads of American soldiers. Nor will I put up with foreign interference in our most sacred democratic exercise, voting. And I'll always stand for our values of human rights and dignity. I'll work in common purpose for a more secure, peaceful, and prosperous world. History has thrust one more urgent task on us. Will we be the generation that finally wipes out the stain of racism from our national character? I believe we're up to it. I believe we're ready. Just a week ago yesterday was the 3rd anniversary of the events in Charlottesville. Close your eyes. Remember what you saw on television. Remember seeing those neo-Nazis and Klansmen and white supremacists coming out of fields with lighted torches, veins bulging, spewing the same anti-Semitic bile heard across Europe in the 30s. Remember the violent clash that ensued between those spreading hate and those with the courage to stand against it. And remember what the president said when asked? He said there were, quote, very fine people on both sides. It was a wake-up call for us as a country, and for me, a call to action. At that moment, I knew I'd have to run, because my father taught us that silence was complicity, and I could never remain silent or complicit. At the time, I said we were in the battle for the soul of this nation. And we are. You know, one of the most important conversations I've had this entire campaign This was someone who was much too young to vote. I met with 6-year-old Gianna Floyd the day before her daddy, George Floyd, was laid to rest. She's an incredibly brave little girl. And I'll never forget it. When I leaned down to speak to her, she looked in my eyes and she said, and I quote, "Daddy changed the world. Daddy changed the world." Her words burrowed deep into my heart. Maybe George Floyd's murder was a breaking point. Maybe John Lewis's passing the inspiration. But however it's come to be, however it's happened, America's ready, in John's words, to lay down, quote, "the heavy burden of hate at last," and to end the hard work of rooting out our systemic racism. You know, American history tells us that it's been in our darkest moments that we've made our greatest progress, that we found the light. In this dark moment, I believe we're poised to make great progress again, that we can find the light once more. You know, many people have heard me say this, but I've always believed you can define America in one word: possibilities. The defining feature of America: everything is possible. That in America, everyone, and I mean everyone, should be given an opportunity to go as far as their dreams and God-given ability will take them. We can never lose that. In times as challenging as these, I believe there's only one way forward: as a united America. A united America. United in our pursuit of a more perfect union. United in our dreams of a better future for us and for our children. United in our determination to make the coming years bright. Are you ready? I believe we are. This is a great nation. We're a good and decent people. For the Lord's sake, this is the United States of America. And there's never been anything we've been able to accomplish when we've done it together. The Irish poet Seamus Heaney once wrote, "History says, don't hope on this side of the grave, but then, once in a lifetime, the longed-for tidal wave of justice can rise up and hope and history rhyme. This is our moment to make hope and history rhyme. With passion and purpose, let us begin, you and I together, one nation, under God, united in our love for America, united in our love for each other. For love is more powerful than hate, hope is more powerful than fear, and light is more powerful than dark. This is our moment, this is our mission. May history be able to say that the end of this chapter of American darkness began here, tonight, as love and hope and light join in the battle for the soul of the nation. And this is a battle we will win, and we'll do it together. I promise you. Thank you, and may God bless you, and may God protect our troops.
All right, there was Joe Biden. There was a speech, very, very disappointing speech, because it was not that bad. You know, it wasn't. I mean, we can't lie. It was a pretty decent speech. The Democrats are so lucky that he didn't have to give that live, and they took advantage of that. So, you know, I don't know how many takes was required for that, but whatever it was, they managed to put together a decent speech. I don't know, you know, as I said at the very beginning, these political speeches, I don't know what effect it really has or if it really sways anyone. I tend to doubt it. Here's my hope, though, and we're going to switch over to All Access. So if you're an All Access member, we'll do the wrap up in just a minute. Remember, you can go to dailywire.com, become an All Access member, 20% off, use code ACCESS. The last note I'll say before we go over to All Access. what I would like for the Republicans to do is just start first day of the convention and just say, listen, yeah, you know what? Trump is a mean son of a bitch. He is. We'll set that aside. He's not a nice guy. Let's talk about the stuff that really matters. I hope that's what they should do. I don't think they will, but that would be nice. Just the contrast, because there was a whole lot of fluff tonight, a whole lot of it. And even in that speech, although it was delivered well, and there are some nice emotional moments, but I didn't hear a lot of substance at all. I'm not sure that I heard any, and that's the problem. All right. Thanks for joining us for this watch party. I hope it was as painful for you as it was for me, because misery loves company. We're going to switch over now. We're going to have All Access. We'll wrap things up with our All Access crew, and we'll get to that in just a minute. Thanks for watching, guys.